just show you the blazer real quick. All right, if you can see, this is already sewn on, and when you button the blazer, the rhinestone design goes across the blazer like so, and then it's also on the cuff of that sleeve right there. So I'm actually sewing this down right now. So the full blazer again looks like that, but the diamond piece I'm working on right now is this one. This one is already sewn on. So I'm gonna kind of spin that around a little bit, and there you go. Take that pin out of there. So I'm just going around all the little vine details to make sure those are sewn down. These ones, when I do blazers, literally all I do is if a prom girl, if I'm making her prom dress, like for example, if I'm making her prom dress and her date needs some of her diamonds like hand sewn on the blazer, that's really the only men's orders I take. Is but like the suit, I don't make the suit myself. I do not make the suit myself. So her date would have to bring a suit that already fits him, and then I'll sew some of the same diamond pieces that's going on her prom gown on his suit. But this suit, look, this suit he got, it was $179 from Rossi Man. Sorry. This suit is a really good suit. This is a 40 regular. But again, I don't make the suits anymore. I don't make menswear anymore. But if I am doing a prom girl and she says her date wants some diamond pieces embellished on his suit to match her dress, I will do that. But really also I have my other seamstress do it. Right now I'm just doing a rush order for my client, but for the most part I'll have a different seamstress that does more menswear do it, because I'm trying to get out of the habit of just working on different orders. I feel like as a fashion designer, as a business owner, you should be working on your business and not in your business. So I try to delegate as much as possible to my other seamstresses so that I can be working on the growth of my business more than working in my business. But I still love fashion design and I love my clients, so I always do it. If it's a rush order, especially, I don't have any issue working on the orders myself, especially because I've been in the industry so long. I'm faster than a lot of my seamstresses. So, but again, that's not a good thing. The more they work, the more they learn, the faster they'll get. So that's why I need to delegate more so that my team also becomes stronger as well. Right now I'm tying off the knot. And I need to rethread this needle. Let's see. Whatchamacallit put a sad face in the comment section. I'm assuming you're putting a sad face because I don't do custom suiting anymore. Um, I really don't like menswear. I'm sorry. I don't like doing it. That's why I don't like even this. I only do men's suits if I'm doing their dates dress. Like I won't do a suit if I'm not doing the woman's dress as a full custom order because I don't even enjoy menswear. That's right, but you explained it. Oh, you said that's right, but oh, okay. So I didn't see your comment until just now. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I don't number one, I don't enjoy doing men's suits. Here's why. A woman's dress might be 4 to 8 pattern pieces. Menswear, believe it or not, a suit might be 21 to 30 pattern pieces. The front of the lapel, the back of the lapel, the collar at the top, this seam, this dart, this pocket flare, this pocket on the inside. That the sleeve is made up of 2 to 3 pieces, and then on the inside there's like 20 more pattern pieces. It takes so long just to make one blazer. I could have made 5 gowns in the same amount of time that I can make one blazer. The gowns could be between 1,500 and 3,000 each, and it takes half the time, less than half the time of making a blazer. In a blazer, I might not charge $400 for. So time versus like the item, it doesn't make sense for me time wise to work on a blazer when I could be working on gowns, which would make me more money in less than half the time. So yeah. Also, I feel like when I opened my store, um, I mean, it may because I'm based in Philly or whatever. But there were just too many instances where men would come in my store and just only come because they were attracted to me or my seamstresses. Like they would just act perverty or inappropriate with either me or my team members. And I don't like menswear anyway. So it's like I'm not going to invite men into my store location or my business to harass me or my team when I don't have to. And so that was another thing too. Like there was an instance years ago before the pandemic, because that's when I stopped hosting menswear in my store after the pandemic. But there was an instance years ago where this man, one of my seamstresses, was measuring him for a suit, like pant leg, hem, and all this kind of stuff. And he was just being super inappropriate, like pointing at his areas and saying, "Oh, do you see how big that is? You got to make sure there's room for that." And at the time, the seamstress who was working with him, she was a college student. She might have been like 23. It was just so inappropriate. And I was just like, you know what? I don't even need men in this store. I don't want them harassing my team or me. Like, let's just not even do this anymore and focus on women who is our ideal customer anyway. So, yeah. There was also another instance in my store with me where this guy came in. Somebody said that's stunning. Somebody else said hi. Hi, how are you? Um, there was another instance in my store where this guy came in my store and he wanted to try on a dress, which, okay, fine. I have a lot of men who do drag performances and stuff who buy a lot of dresses and gowns in my store, so it was like not an issue. He was trying on a mini dress, cool, whatever. He comes out the fitting room with this mini dress on, pulled up with his stuff out, exposed, and he's like, "How do you think this looks?" Like, how do I think what looks? Your stuff? You like your private area? What's happening here? So he did that, and I actually found out that he did that to a couple of the stores in my neighborhood as well, where he was just showing his private parts to different store owners, acting like he was going in the fitting room to try on something, but really he wanted to come out the fitting room, expose himself to whoever was working in that store, just to, I don't know, get a reaction, or I don't know, get off on it. Very odd, very weird. So I was just like, you know what? Maybe it's just not. It's not going to work out for the men's in my store. Can't risk it. Even though, like, of course, my store has cameras and, you know, weapons and all the things. It's still not worth putting me or my store assistants at risk for anything to happen. So, had to slow down on the menswear. For those who just joined in, I'm just sewing on this diamond piece on the blazer, sewing around the different um, around the different leaves and flower parts of this panel design. Why is this not going through? Okay, I'm just making sure this is fully sewn down. I might actually have to turn the air on in this store because it is hot. It is 70 something today, and it is actually hot in my store. Guys, and the whole purpose of like sewing in this way is so that you don't see any of the stitches. So if you see, I'm going in and out through the white leaves behind the stones. Um, that way it just looks like it came with or on the blazer. I'm actually going to cut a lot of this mesh out as well that you see on this pattern piece. And right now I'm just tying a knot so I can start in a new area. Going to use my handy dandy snippers. Tie that off. And I want to kind of just go through with these snippers and get some of that mesh out. Same thing down here, just snipping some of that mesh off of the piece so that can look more flush to the blazer. And then I'm just going to go back in and sew the little tiny areas where that is. Just tying the knot at the end of the string of my needle. And I'm just going to go back in here and sew that down so that could be a little bit more flush to the blazer. Tie that off. Put another knot in there. And I just want to get that little area too. Make sure that's sewn down nice and neatly. Also, I'm trying to make sure I'm going through the top layer and not the inside of the blazer. So that's why I'm kind of holding it on the inside to make sure my needle isn't going through both layers. So that on the inside of the blazer, it looks like nothing was done or altered. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and rethread this needle. All right. All right. Now for the bottom. What time is it? 10:44. Okay, I think I'm still doing good on time. Now, these could be glued on. They could be glued on, but if they're glued on the blazer, then they're permanent, right? And let's just say they want to move it up or down or left or right, or they want a different look for their suit next year. If they do that and it's glued on, they don't have the option to do anything different with the suit. But if it's sewn on, then let's say next year they want to wear this suit, but then they only want it on their shoulders. They can just unstitch it or take it back to me or my team to have some of the pieces moved around or switched. So that's why I think I prefer to sew them on, because then the client has more options of different ways to wear or style the suit in the future versus this being a permanent decision. I see somebody commented, good morning. Hi, how are you? And I'm also taking this stitch kind of left to right so I can get both sides of the piece, like whichever little area I'm doing. Um, Kind of doing a zigzag crossover stitch so I can get both left and right versus having to go up the piece and then down the piece on the other side. If you do a zigzag stitch, then you can go across both sides of the different pieces, like the different loops or swirls, without having to come back and do the other side of the loop or the swirl or the flower later. And actually, as I'm doing this, I'm moving the lining out the way so that it's not stitching through the lining. It's literally just stitching through the top layer. So if you saw the stitches, then you would see all these up and down around stitches here. You don't want that. You want the inside to look clean. So I keep my hand under it so that I make sure I don't feel the needle going through all the different layers. I want the needle to just go through the top layer of fabric, but not through the lining. And again, if you don't care about your suit, or you know you want it like this forever, then yeah, you can glue these pieces on, and it would probably be a lot quicker. But if you want the option to switch up the look later, if you sew on the pieces, then later on, if you decide you don't like that look, or you want the pieces on a different layout, you always have that option to do it if it's sewn on. If it's glued on, it's permanent, and you don't have the option to move the pieces, replace the pieces, or do anything. So sewing it on is better. And again, I'm going in and out. Should I zoom in? Can you guys see enough? I would say these pieces take me about a half hour to 40 minutes to sew on each diamond piece. So, of this size. So I would say for another person who's not used to sewing, it might take them an hour to 2 hours to sew on each piece. All right, and now I'm like feeling around. So that whole piece is sewn on. So now I'm tying this in a knot, and I'm going to start going around the bottom of the other side. I'm gonna take my snippers. If you just saw me knot that about 3 times. Okay, so now we've gone through these pieces. We've sewn around these pieces. You see they're not budging around the bottom. Now I have to sew this side all the way up to there, right? Or is that sewn on? Oh, this is sewn on. But I have to, and I'm gonna pin this pocket flap out the way. So it's sewn to here. So from here to here is what I need to hand sew now. Then probably after that, I might let you guys go because I have to open my store and get the day started. You see I have my partition up. Oh, can y'all even see the store? My bad. So I need to open my store after that. But let me show you the full suit again. Can y'all see the Mayan? So when this is closed, and don't ask me why he got silver on the suit that has gold buttons, but so the way this looks is like kind of crossed over, and then he's getting another piece sewn on his cuff, which I just have pulled up and out the way. Let me thread my needle again. And a thing about threading the needle, you guys, I don't thread my needle too long because I don't like the string getting caught up and knotted. If your thread on your needle is super long, tie the knot, and then whatever is after the knot, we're going to cut off. And guys, I also have a curved needle. Some people prefer to work with the curved needle on these rhinestone panels. I don't know if it's just the needle that I have, but it is, I can't do it. I can't feel the piece getting um like tightly sewn down as much when I use the curved needle versus when I use the straight needle. I don't know. Maybe I'm just used to the straight needle more, but I feel like I have more grip on the fabric when I use a straight needle. Is that true or not? I don't know, but it just feels that way. Okay. And like I said, you're not seeing this, but with the needle, I'm literally kind of pulling up that top layer of fabric to separate it from the lining, so that I am only sewing this through the top fabric of the suit, and so that you cannot see it, all these stitches from the inside. So you kind of want to do that if you want to do nice and neat work. Then on the inside, you see there's like a couple places where you see a white stitch, but literally this is all sewn left to right, left to right, left to right, left to right around the whole thing. So you really want to kind of just avoid having all that stitch work showing on the lining. And again, once I finish this piece, I think later on, maybe I'll shoot a live during some of my fittings later on. I have 2 dress fittings for prom around 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. I'll probably shoot those. I'll try to do a live. If I don't do a live, then I'll post about it in 7 months. I've been fairly consistent with my YouTube shorts lately, so definitely check those out. Guys, and anywhere where my thread kind of gets stuck around a diamond, I just pull it with the needle and readjust. And as I'm sewing down, I take the pins out. You should always take the pins out as your sections are sewn, so that when you're fully done, there's no pins left in whatever you're sewing. So you should be taking the pins out as you go. I've had instances where I've used seamstresses and they've said, oh yeah, the garment is done, and then I'll give it to a customer and then there's all these pins in it. Horrible service. Why would you stab my customer like that? Don't do that. Take the pins out as you go. That way when you're fully done, there's no pins left in the garment. But you definitely need the pins in there as you're sewing to keep the placement of your pieces. But yeah, you need to be taking those out once you get finished with that section. Now also just kind of push that with my nail too. I have to open my store at 11, so I'm trying to finish this diamond piece by then. What time is it? Oh, is it 57? Oh, Lord. So I gotta get to here within 3 minutes? That's not likely because I'm about to have to rethread this needle. Maybe I shouldn't doubt myself, but I do need to rethread this needle. On this part, I'm also holding on to the inside to make sure I'm not going through that pocket loop too, because you don't want to sew the pocket closed. You want them to be able to use it. This is another thing that happens. I don't know if you could see, but the needle went through a bead. Whenever that happens, you kind of have to go in reverse, take it out of the bead, and then push it back forward. It's not going to go through the bead, so you always have to take it out. And now I'm just using the needle to make some tight knot loops, and then I have to re-thread this needle. Let me snip this away. Time is now 10:59. I'm gonna thread this needle, and then I am going to open my store. Okay, so now that we've threaded the needle again, we're gonna double knot this. So can you see? Double knot that. Then I'm just gonna put the needle here for a second. While I back the camera up and open the store because it is 11. So let's do that. I gotta get the trash. Do I feel like doing the trash right now? Maybe do it. Alright. Alright. Let's pick up with our blazer. Okay, so what I have left to do on this blazer is this part. Hold on. Let me get this a little closer for you. I'm trying to put it in a way where my head doesn't get in the way. Okay, so as you can see, this is all we have left on this full piece. You see how these don't move off the blazer. So we're just gonna pull that in, and again, I like to keep my hand underneath so that I know that I'm not going through both layers of the fabric. We're just gonna sew it onto that top layer of fabric. And I also position the pocket flap out the way so we have more space for that. I feel like live is the only way where y'all are gonna get like actual videos of me sewing, because me trying to edit a full video is just super unlikely at this point. I have tried and it turns out I can't do it. It's gotta be live or else it's not gonna get done. Again, my needle got pulled through a bead, so I kind of have to push it back. Okay. This is another reason why I feel like I can never get my nails done though, because I use my nails so much when I'm hand sewing during prom season and wedding season, which is pretty much all summer. I'm like, what is the point of doing my nails if I'm going to mess them up with little pricks from needles? And I really only like getting gel nails. I can't stand getting like fake acrylic nails. It's too much. And it's not worth it if I'm going to mess them up. But I do like the Kiss brand press-on nails. I feel like they look really nice. They're easy to take on and off. And it's like $7. Okay, so I think this full piece is done. And now on to the next piece, which is going to be the shoulder. Right now I'm just tying the knot. And I hold, maybe I should do that slower. Alright, now we're going to put that pocket flip down. Okay. Not it telling me low power mode. Let me plug in my charger. Let me plug in my charger. There we go. Okay, so now that this is sewn on and this is sewn on, now we're gonna do this shoulder piece. Now I sewed a little bit, if you can see. I sewed this down, piece of this down, but I actually have to sew this whole top part down. I might have to stand up to do that. Hold up. Should I put on a YouTube video? The Smart Passive Income podcast, do they have a YouTube? I really like listening to learning stuff while I'm working. I enjoy learning. Let's see. Or what about Diary of a CEO? Let's see. Uh, what should I listen to, you guys, while I sew this shoulder piece on? What podcast on YouTube should I listen to? Maybe I should watch a podcast about YouTube Live while I'm live on YouTube. All right, so I am. I'm just fixing the needle here. Okay, I'm putting on. Suffocated with counseling's four notes of warning to severe opioid addiction who have started treatment with the dose of ibuprofen. There are so many people who reach 0 viewers when they start streaming to YouTube for the first time. That's because streaming to YouTube is completely different than streaming to Twitch and Kick. So let's fix that with 5 different streaming tips for your first YouTube stream so that you can start growing your YouTube channel. Alright, I'm just doing this because I'm gonna stand up to someone this. Or should I? I'm gonna face the camera the other way because this lighting is too dark. Yeah, that lighting is better. Details like our title, description, thumbnail, everything you're gonna need, including all of your tags. If you hit show more, you can put all your tags here. Then you can hit next again, and you'll be able to pick the time and date that you want to do your live stream. I'd recommend experimenting with this. I'd say starting between 30 minutes to an hour before you actually do your stream. So right now it's gonna put the current time, so I'm just going to increase it by an hour. So we'll do 5, hit done. Then YouTube will be ready to accept your signal whenever you start streaming to it. But the cool part is, the stream that you see right here, people will be able to see this and be able to click on it and hang out in your stream until you go live. They'll see this option over on their homepage, so that way you'll be able to get that much more of an audience before you even start your stream. Also, a little bonus tip is that if you have your friends go into your stream before you start and drop a like on the video, it should help with the engagement and have YouTube push it to more people. So if you don't mind dropping a quick like on this video right here, YouTube will show more of me and my helpful streaming videos to you. Sound good? It freaking better. But how are we going to get people to want to click on our stream? There's so many different choices and options on YouTube, so why should they click on yours? That leads us to tip number 2, and that's planning your streams ahead of time. Unlike Twitch and Kick, it's actually really difficult for viewers to find your stream on YouTube without actually having a game plan. YouTube streams definitely require more effort ahead of time instead of just simply going on to Twitch or Kick and going live with Apex with no plan whatsoever. However, discoverability for YouTube can either be the most amazing thing or it's going to make you hate your life. But I'll touch on more of that later and how we can use it to our advantage. So that means that we need to be more creative in the packaging of our YouTube stream to get more people to want to click on them. That means that we have to focus more on the title and thumbnail and treat it more like a regular YouTube video. Well, that's where tip 3 comes into play. You gotta start treating your YouTube stream as an event to get people excited and actually want to watch. We'll focus on creating an interesting thumbnail excited to watch this? Title, so said I should have y'all excited. Click and watch. For example, what would be more exciting? Playing Apex come hang, or Apex Legends but only using the worst weapons? I'll let you decide. I know this can be really hard for a lot of people because they don't really know what to do. So that's why my favorite secret weapon tool is to use this bad boy right here. See, like this part, for example, I feel like I should probably use the curved needle to sew this part. Like suggest video ideas that are trending right now, give you recommendation for your titles, tell you different keywords and tags that would be good for your channel. But my favorite thing is their new AI coach that literally you can just ask it questions like ChatGPT Let me see. I'm gonna tie this knot off and then try the curved needle.
Templates like based on my channel, what video ideas do you have for me? So I'll just ask it that. It'll actually analyze your specific YouTube channel data, which a lot of chat GPTs won't do. And then it basically told me everything I need to do from title, description, thumbnail, how long it should be, the target audience, and it gives you a bunch of examples. So you can just basically use this as your personal assistant on how to grow your YouTube channel. I also got you guys 90% off your first month, so that way you can test drive it and see if you like it. So use the coupon code to the side me for 90% off your first month. This tool is also extremely helpful for our fourth tip. And the
Okay,
fourth
so
tip
I'm
being
gonna thread this
experimenting with
needle.
YouTube Shorts and YouTube videos. Remember earlier how I said that YouTube discoverability can either be super amazing or make you hate your life? Your YouTube streams heavily rely on your supplemental YouTube content, aka your YouTube Shorts and YouTube videos. Because the more people that watch your YouTube Shorts or YouTube videos, those are the people that are going to be recommended your live stream. Because it is extremely difficult, if not nearly impossible, to get discovered naturally through just YouTube streaming with nothing else. I'd recommend experimenting with YouTube Shorts first because they take the least amount of time compared to YouTube videos. And as you can see, my latest short on my second channel got 14,000 views, which is that many more people you want to get pushed over to your stream. To get the most bang for your buck, I'd recommend doing a little bit of research. So for example, if we were going to stream Apex Legends, I'm going to type that in the YouTube search bar. Then from here, I'm going to click on the little shorts button right underneath it. Then I'll go through and watch a bunch of these shorts and look for mostly the recent ones, like this one 16 hours ago, almost 7,000 views. I'm going to look at the title. I'm going to look at the actual short and see what the short is about. And I'm just going to go and rinse and repeat through a bunch of shorts to get an idea
Yeah,
of
this is
what
actually
YouTube shorts
easier
are
on the
successful in my
shoulder.
niche. That
This
way I can
curved
easily
needle.
replicate it and try my own spin on it. Now the benefits of making YouTube shorts are endless. You can even start making that side hustle money if you're good enough at it. But mainly they're great for growing your audience and getting more viewers on your streams. Now the tool that I mentioned earlier is actually really helpful for YouTube shorts and YouTube videos, especially this brand new AI coach that you can literally ask it any question you want. But speaking of other helpful things, we gotta move on to tip 5, which is using a secret strategy that I use to grow this channel you're watching right now to almost 50,000 subscribers as of recording this video. So if you want to learn what the secret strategy is and how to do it, then watch this video to the side of me where I walk you through step by step. But my name's Cody, and I'll see you in the next one.
Let's see.
Several testimonials to learn more about our students' favorite course features. Here are just 3 of them.
Almost every single person that tries to become a streamer today fails. Why? Because they don't understand the reality it takes to succeed in today's competitive market. Streaming can be a lot of work and super frustrating. So let's keep it simple and break it down into 3 easy steps. And the last one is the one that most people are messing up, and it's destroying their streams. If I were to start streaming in 2025, the very first thing that I would do is cut whatever time I'm using to stream in half and use that new time and spend it on making a content strategy. The key to standing out today is having a hook or gimmick to hook in your audience. Don't just simply play a game like everyone else, or you're just going to end up in the sea of streamers with 0 to 2 viewers.
I
We need
think
to
this
add a
guy is
twist or a gimmick to
specifically
hook people
talking
in. For
about
example, instead of
gaming
just playing
streaming, and
Fortnite with the
I'm
homies,
literally
try a
just
gimmick
streaming
like
how to
streams never
sew
end until we
on
win,
a
or chat
blazer.
picks my
So
only weapon I can use.
I don't
It's
know if his
simple,
content
easy to
relates to what
understand,
I'm
fun,
doing.
and different. People are more likely to click on your stream because it offers
Good
something uniquely
morning.
different than what everyone else is doing. For example, let's go over on Twitch and see what everyone's doing. Chances are it's just a ton of people with 0 to 2 viewers with generic titles that aren't going to
I
stand
wonder
out.
if
First thing
I
we'll do is go over
hand
to
sew
the
this
Fortnite
blazer on
category. There's
Twitch if people
100,000
would care.
viewers roughly in this category, but look how many streamers there are. There are a ton of streamers. If I actually just scroll, I'm going to scroll really far. Look how many people that you're competing with. This is actually insane. And you can see that we're still at like 20 viewers. So like when you're starting out with 0 viewers, it's going to be rough. So I know it's going to take a while. So I'm actually going to go all the way back up to the top and change it from viewers high to low, from viewers low to high. And let's see. One viewer, one viewer, one viewer, one viewer, one viewer. And you have one viewer because yourself is the viewer. So like look at all these people with 1 to 2 viewers. So like look at these categories. Join. I don't know what that says. Untitled broadcast. Don't know what that says. Don't know what that is. Can't read that. None of these titles are very interesting. None of these titles actually make me want to go and click and see what's going on here. Fortnite exclamation point. Like, can you try a little bit harder, please? New Fortnite season. Okay, who cares? Like Fortnite, Fortnite, Fortnite. Like, who cares? If you want to actually stand out, you're gonna have to put a little bit more effort into creating your
All right,
content.
let
Let's
me
go from
turn
high to
this
low and
video
see
to
what's
a
going on
different
here. Like
video.
we have Performance Evaluation Cup Finals, so that means it's like an actual tournament going on. So that's way more interesting than just Fortnite. We got first place POV eval. Anyone who wants to be successful successful in business has to go through the period of building something. Only have a couple different formats: short form video, long form video, text, audio, image. Those are your only formats. So like you can pretty much profile where these people are in a couple ways. One, if you're them, chances are where you like to hang out, they like to hang out. You probably already know that. If you're not them, you ask a small sample set of your early customers or the people that you're trying to interview where they hang out. And like wherever they are, you then have to immerse yourself in that community. So let's say it's LinkedIn. You, the people you want are on LinkedIn. Immediately, you need to go follow a bunch of people that are in your exact avatar group. Start commenting on their posts. Start kind of triggering the algorithm to angle yourself, your profile at them. Then you need to start making video native content on that platform. So either short form or long form video is going to outkick everything else. It just will. That's where all the platforms are going. LinkedIn doesn't have native long form video, so you do short form video because they have their native short form feed, and you just start making short form videos. We'll get to that, like these are later steps, but you pick the surface, LinkedIn, you pick the format, short form video, and you just immerse in that sub community. Anyone can build an 8-figure business using that method. Who the buyer is, find the one format they're on, or find the one platform they're on, find the format they're on, and then I'm sure we're going to get to 3, 4, and 5, which is actually how you do it. But this is the setup, right? This is the strategy setup for like how to actually make sure your effort is useful and not wasted.
Yeah. You know what? There's different, and if we just take it right down to the base, there's different forms of communications as humans, right? Like, obviously we have video, which is like a mixture, I guess, of like verbal and then like visual. You have just audio, which is just
We'll
you're
see.
listening. You have written. You said something very interesting there. You said native video.
Yeah.
That's the way it's going.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that for people?
Yeah, I have this like fairly lame phrase that like people say like a picture's worth 1,000 words, and then I say like a video is worth 1,000 pictures, right? So essentially, video is just way richer of a medium. You just take in so much more data when you're watching a video. Trust accrues when you take in more data faster. So if people watch this for 5 minutes, you've probably gotten 1,000x more trust accrued than they would if they read that same amount of people read like a blurb that you wrote in text, because it's just not as real when you're looking at the words as it is compared to video. So video, like first you have to agree or buy into the fact that video is a richer medium than image than text. Right? That's step one. Then step two is when I say native video. The platforms are built to keep people on, right? The whole business of social media is they make money when people stay using it so they can run ads against them. That's like their whole job. So the algorithm's job is to prioritize whatever format is going to keep the people on the longest. That turns out to be video. And so that's
Okay,
essentially,
so
it's like
let's
we bought into video, now we bought into
start
the
on
fact
the
that all
back.
algorithms are prioritizing video. The next thing is the native. So platforms want you to stay on their thing. They don't want you to leave and go somewhere else. So LinkedIn has a short form video feed built into it. So that's like native on LinkedIn. But if you were to post a long form video from YouTube on
Let's
LinkedIn,
see.
long form on LinkedIn, but most people want to use YouTube.
Should I put the camera like this?
That means LinkedIn doesn't get the ad revenue anymore from that person. They don't want that. So they don't want you to link out. So the easiest way to get them to push you, because you'll help keep people there, which is what they want, is to
Alright.
use their native video products. Instagram Reels is native. TikTok, the TikTok video is native. YouTube long form and shorts are native. I think long form is way more powerful than YouTube. LinkedIn Shorts. Twitter doesn't really have native video either way. Like you can post both. I think Elon's trying to get long form to become native. the supply and demand mismatch is very out of whack. Ton of demand, people want, like, if you think about it, every person on LinkedIn, which is like, you think of like a guy in a suit chilling at work, they're spending time on LinkedIn. If they're in the office, they're not really allowed to go on their social media, but LinkedIn is like work. So they're all going on it. Everybody likes videos, so they're churning through those videos. So LinkedIn right now is the best underpriced attention relative to the others. However, what trumps underpriced is where the buyer is. So if your buyer's not on LinkedIn, you're just posting on LinkedIn because it's underpriced, that doesn't make sense. But the way to think through the difference is like, typically CPG type brands are going to do best on Instagram and TikTok. Typically B2B services are going to do best on LinkedIn. Like, that's where the buyer is. SaaS can do well on all of them. Usually consumer SaaS, I would say TikTok, and B2B SaaS, LinkedIn or YouTube. YouTube's kind of the universal, like, blood. It's like the universal donor. Like, you can post on YouTube or anything. It's just way harder. Long form's way harder. But yeah, like, start with where the buyer is, and then be like, okay, all my buyers are here. I'm gonna jump in the conversation. I'm gonna be in the comments. But like, the thing you can do to get the most buyers magnetic to you and your personal brand, which drives to the brand, is post native video.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to step three, and this is like, for me personally, this is what I really like. This step three, which is, I have it written as speak the language of that platform, the how and the what. But really, if I really wanted to just make it simple, it's like, okay, step one, you've identified who the viewer avatar is. Step two, you've chosen your service and you've gone like very narrow in how you're delivering to that viewer avatar. Yep. Step three is actually, how are you actually getting people to care?
Yeah.
Like, give a shit about what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so, you know what I,
where I, big can of worms right here.
It's very big. And you know where I want to begin is, in the last 6 months, you've gone from 0 to 100,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah.
And one of your most popular videos was how to master storytelling. Over 1 million people have watched that, which is insane. At that time, you had how many subscribers did you even?
When I posted it, I had less than 1,000.
That's crazy.
Yeah. To be fair, that video had been made. Well, actually, the video had been made 6 months before. I posted on a different channel, didn't do well. So all I did was take the same video, re-thumbnail it. But
Yeah.
the algo was different, obviously. I like audience matched my new channel, which we could get into. But
yeah, we will get into that. But you know what? Just to begin and to level set, storytelling.
Yeah.
Storytelling is one of those things that, like, I know, especially before I really got into content, you just hear everyone talk about storytelling, and it's not even just marketers. It's like entrepreneurs. It's like, oh, Steve Jobs was an amazing storyteller, and then you'll get like a film director, like it's all about storytelling, and then a musician, and then like everyone talks about storytelling. And I'd always be like, what's this thing? It's like one of those like overused terms that we just hear.
The invisible ghost.
That's a good way to put it. Talk to me about the importance of storytelling. Like, why is that so important when it comes to getting people to care about what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, storytelling is universally, like, probably the most powerful skill anyone could have. So we're gonna dive, like, I was thinking before I came here, like, how am I gonna tee up the intro? I was like, you want me to tell you the secret about storytelling? I'll give it to you right now. That was me.
My hooks, yeah.
So storytelling essentially is a bucket of things, but it's persuasion, it's psychology, it's really getting someone to care and keep caring about the thing you're saying, right? Through anything. You can storytell through music. It's like, do you want to keep listening to the song? Storytell through books. Do you want to keep reading? Storytell through video. Do you want to keep watching? It's just, storytelling? Storytelling is like the magnetism that keeps people holding on to hear more, see more, view more. And so the problem with something like storytelling is it's this kind of like opaque term. It's like, how do you actually break it down? And I actually think what I'm best at, my sauce is I'm pretty good at breaking things down into like the atomic unit.
Very good.
And explaining how to piece them apart. So my philosophy on storytelling, I mean, there's several pieces that I think we should break down, but the nuts and bolts for content specifically is, there's a few things. The first thing is, depending on the surface, depending on the format,
Can you
you have
see
to
everything I'm
compress the
doing?
speed to value quicker. That's like a universal tenet of storytelling. Christopher Nolan, when he makes a movie, doesn't have to compress the speed of value, because he knows you're in the theater for 2.5 hours. So he can afford to like specific techniques to rehook them. You hook them, give them value as soon as possible, rehook them throughout, trickle in more value. That's kind of how you, that's roughly the structure for how you hold people with content. So one thing is speak to value. The second thing though, and this is really the universal tenet of storytelling, and I've never seen this anywhere. So I'm sure most of these ideas that I have, like, I think they're original because I haven't seen anyone say them, but I'm sure somebody has come up with this before. But like, hand to God, I've never heard anyone say this. The key to storytelling is contrast. This, I'll die on this hill. Contrast is the difference between A and B, right? So a common example is like, is Prince Charming fighting a dragon interesting? It's kind of interesting, but what would make it more interesting is Prince Charming walking through the forest, chilling, and then out of nowhere, the dragon comes and they start fighting. The difference between
Wix, one platform,
How did I just mess up that video?
unlimited creation. Describe your needs goals.
and that's because I've leaned you, I've created distance between what you believe and then what I know to be true, right?
Yeah. You know what's interesting, and I want to make it so real for people. That distance, like what exists in that distance, is curiosity. And that's like when you're talking about how do you hook people, like how do you keep someone watching something, it's like you're maintaining the curiosity. And you know what? I like even as you were talking about the contrast, and here we're really like because yeah, like one way to apply this to storytelling, but storytelling is actually everywhere.
Yeah.
Like if you go on a date this evening, if you were a better storyteller, that date would probably go better.
Oh yeah.
If you were at a job and you're pitching a project that you want your boss to take, if you were a better storyteller, that will go better. If you're like in marketing and you want your campaign to like, if you were a better storyteller, that campaign would be more effective.
Yeah.
And so, in my mind, one of the most vivid examples, when it just actually comes to understanding what you just mentioned, which is the importance of contrast, is I remember for the first time watching Game of Thrones. I've actually watched through it twice now.
Nice.
But like I remember for the first time watching it, and it was like at the time, I don't even know when it ended, like 2015.
Yeah.
The way they kept you so off center, they kept you like as an audience,
Yeah, off
like someone
balance.
as a viewer, yeah, you had no idea what's gonna happen next.
Yeah.
And the way that they did it was purely through the contrast, right? It was, oh, I think that the heroes that they've established are gonna win, and then all of a sudden they all die.
Exactly.
And it's like you, as soon as a viewer, you're like leaning one way, and you think you know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
The opposite.
That's the thing is you, as a storyteller, your job is to create that lead and then snap against it. And so if you never create the lead, the person starts a baseline. So even if you snap, the distance is shorter. The way to get the distance bigger is to create a lead over here and come over here. So the best like artists and movie like directors and like you said, Game of Thrones, they like your baseline expectation when you see a hero walking through the forest, like they're gonna be safe, right? So then they'll show things that would insinuate safety, like to build that even further. So they'll be like, oh, nobody's around, or like they'll pan out the distance to the next town is super far, right? To give you that security that it's safe, and then something comes out of nowhere. It creates that shock, right? That yeah, like that distance is, I don't know what's gonna happen. When you know what's gonna happen, it's boring, right?
And then you're off.
So
You click off.
you can use that principle, like that really is the principle at the base level, not necessarily persuasion, but of like hooking someone in with intrigue, right? That's the key piece of creating intrigue. That curiosity loop, curiosity gap, right? Whatever you want to call it. That's critical for any type. I mean, when someone sits around the fire and they tell a story, it's not like I did A, then B, then C, then D, then E, and you're like, okay, they get this guy off the mic. It's like they say like, oh yeah, I was in Egypt and I was like walking through, and then out of nowhere, like the scorpion kid, like that's how people tell stories because the surprise of that new entrant, new character that creates contrast against what you wouldn't have thought.
And then it's like, even if you just go back to that picture and that visual of being around the fireplace, as soon as they start to get you into that lean and then they snap you back, it's like, what do you do as the viewer?
Yeah.
You just start leaning in because
Exactly.
you want to know.
Yeah.
It's like it's all curiosity driven. And you know what? I wanted to make it tactical for people because
content. Your job is to like embed these little moments, two or three for shorts, two or three times for YouTube. You can re-hug once every 3 minutes for like the entire video. Embed these little hectic moments. Like I was actually thinking, even the way I describe around the fire, when I said it, I was like, most of the time when you're around the fire, if someone's like this, get the guy off the stage. I should actually do it. I even did it there. Like when I was, that's just, but I trained my brain to kind of talk in these ways. The best people that are natural storytellers that are engaging, they do this. They just don't know it, right? And so you can now look for it when you hear them talk.
Yeah. See, I get that as well. Of like, just because we do this all the time, you naturally start to communicate in that way.
Exactly.
Like you're constantly doing the head thing.
Yeah.
But like there's definitely like a ramp up process, and you almost have to become cognizant of like when am I falling into like the and then form of, well, it's not even storytelling, it's just like describing events.
Talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you speak to
Okay, the last part for this is this piece, and then I have to trim some of this mesh off. You can see that. Yeah, so the last part I have to sew is this little flap, and then I have to I want to trim some of that mesh out the way. It is 11:37, and I need to be done this by 12, you guys. And I have one more piece to sew on, which is on the cuff.
like to the person that's just starting out with this, what was your process in the beginning of actually, like, you might have an initial draft of a script that you've
I'm
created,
just
but
knotting that
actually making
thread.
an interesting story? Like, are you literally going in and putting in bars and then writing, or were you like in the beginning before you got to the point where
Clip that.
now you're probably pretty unconscious, right? Like you're naturally doing it.
Well,
Now
the
I'm
good
just
thing
gonna use
is
my
like,
straight
and
needle because this is
part of
already
this is hard.
threaded.
But if you are struggling with this, that's why
Tie
I
the
always
knot at the
suggest,
end of
you
that
know,
one.
learn how to do it yourself. We'll just do it for you. Like this is an example of like this principle of but then, or but therefore and then. We, I coded that into the software so that it automatically does it for people, so that their stuff's just better, right? So that's one way to automatically do it. But when I was starting out, like
Okay, so now this
you
piece.
try a bunch of times, fail a bunch of times, and then you try to look at who's winning and analyze the pattern, not necessarily like the sauce, but the underlying framework. Because the sauce is hard to replicate, but the base units are, you're able to extract the pattern. So I think like I just tried a bunch of times, I was failing, I was kind of watching people storytell, and then naturally, like I had a couple winners happen luckily. So then I tried to analyze the pattern of the winners. So like, oh, whenever I go A then B, like A but B, or like whatever, then but, it doesn't matter what word you use, but like this way then this way, it seems to
Oh,
work
okay.
well for
See,
people. So then
this
I started doing that more.
is
Those also work.
still
And
not
training
sewn, but
that
I'm
method.
actually going to
The
cut
thing I was
that.
gonna say for beginners, there's really two things to this pattern, to this. Knowing the contrast using but or some other word is part one. That's actually the easy part. I just said, I just told you, and you have the answer now. The hard part is knowing what thing to contrast against with what other thing, right? That's the hard part. So like, if we were trying to describe your show, we would have to have a list of like, what are the few things that make it interesting, right? So we have to come up with those things. Then we have to think, what are the baseline expectations that most people would think about it without knowing anything about it, and try to
And then I'm
pick
going to
the best
go
business, right?
over
So that's
underneath
you're gonna
the
feel like the
fabric
person
and go
is
over
this,
to
this, this.
these two.
That's how you decide A then B. But it's easy to contrast once you
You
like
see?
to create the contrast
So
with
I'm going
what
over and then under
between the things is actually the
to
sauce,
get
right? That's the hard part.
to.
And that's, I would assume, and it'd be interesting to see what you think, but like, I would assume that's just reps.
It's just reps.
That's just like, you've done it enough times where you've seen, and also, even back to what we were saying at the beginning, that's when like, I call it the viewer avatar because we do a podcast, but like, whoever the customer avatar is,
Yeah.
that understanding of them becomes so key because it's like, okay, what is their baseline? Because what you want to do is you almost want to go in their baseline expectation and then go.
Snap. So it's baseline expectation, contrarian reality. Those are the two elements, the way I talk about it. And so the way to do it, if you could do it mathematically, the way I would do it is like take the list of baselines and ask yourself, out of 100 people in this circle, how many believe that baseline? You want the highest number possible because that's like the highest lean this way. Of the new version of like the what we know that they don't know, how many out of 100 would believe that or not? coming tomorrow, right?
Uh-huh.
But I'm gonna be in tomorrow.
Okay.
Can you give it to her? And I'll give it to you Thursday, cause I'm off tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, I'll give
Yeah.
you the $100 Thursday when I come in Thursday.
Okay.
All right.
Yep, that's
All right.
fine.
Thanks, honey. All
No
right. Appreciate
problem.
you. All right.
Okay, I want to. I want to clean up some of this mesh while I'm here. Okay. That. Do you enjoy sewing each day? I don't sew every day. I probably sew 3 to 4 days a week. But yeah, for the most part, unless I'm rushing for an order, I enjoy it. I don't enjoy rushing, but I do enjoy sewing and creating different looks. I'm sorry, I had to blow my nose. Okay, so that whole piece. Oh, there's a fly in my store. Okay, so let me show you. This whole side is finished now, right? So this is the back piece. Again, I'm probably going to cut that mesh out there. This is all done. That piece. Sorry, I'm trying to get my tripod to stabilize. This is all done. This is also on. Now this right here is his cuff on his wrist, and that is the last part that I'm going to be sewing. Is designing your full-time job? Yes, it is. So I own a boutique, a clothing store, which is women's wear. And I mostly am busy during prom and wedding season for evening wear. And one of my top selling collections in here is my collection. So my designs are the highest performing brand in my store. Um, and I'm open 5 days a week. So it is my full-time job, along with, my website, custom orders, all that is through my brand and my store. Okay. So, ugh, last on the list is the cuff. Kind of over sewing today. I love that for you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yep, I've had my store for 9. Let me pause this video. I've had my store for 9.5 years. It'll be 10 years in um, October. So I've built up a clientele to where this is the only thing that I do is design beautiful things for beautiful people. So it is really a blessing. Lastly, I'm going to do the cuffs, and I am probably going to clip out where these buttons are. This is the part where I'm not sure if I feel like doing all this work, but I got to. Let me turn the video back on.
Works in a different way. Like I'm able to really do quick, like like that, but then really elongate as well. You're good at that as well. That comes with time, and I think the best way to practice that is the best way to learn writing is something called copy work, right? So you like take the book, take a passage, and literally handwrite word for word to learn how authors or writers pick word order. The best way to do this with speech and rhythm is, it sounds weird, but like take a video that you like the person's rhythm, get the transcript and like read it aloud as they do it, like read it along, and you can kind of hear. You'll start to like your brain will start to learn the patterns of how they do it. I made a video about like speaking that had a couple of these in there, but it's just so it takes a lot of reps to learn.
Yeah.
So that's rhythm.
It's just like it's crazy to me how deep it goes.
It goes all the way
Because it's
down.
like you would never think about that. Like this person, you're like, oh, they're just talented, and they are talented.
Yeah.
But it's like all of these things that they're doing, and a lot of the times with talented people, they're doing it unconsciously.
Exactly.
But that's the reason it works.
Yeah, that's to me that's the difference between talent and skill. Talent is you're doing the thing you should be doing, but without knowing it. Skill is
That's a really good way to
you've
put it.
developed that ability.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to do, at least with content, like it's a very narrow slice of a very narrow piece, but like I'm trying to be so obsessed with it that I can break every piece of talent into a skill, into building blocks, address a way, like come up with a way to get better at those building blocks, stack them back up, so that skill then looks like talent.
Yeah. See, that's what I was saying. Like you're like illuminating the thing. Like you're like putting a light on it. Like, oh, this is actually what they're doing that makes it work.
Yeah, and I've even thought, I'm like, should I be giving away all this sauce? But that goes back to the point at the very beginning. Is like the pie for winning is so big that I couldn't possibly like the selfish take mindset would be, let me just keep this all for myself. I'm like, I'm gonna use it as my secret weapon, and I'm gonna just accrue all this like whatever wealth and but it's like the pie is so big there, I can have all that and everyone can have it. So it's like, why not just give it up and like let people. I think applying these principles is the hardest part, and so if you want help applying it, I'll help you. But if the principles are all you're lacking, there's an 18-year-old somewhere who has everything but doesn't know why they're doing the thing they're doing, and my free video can unlock something and they can get whatever they want. I think that's dope. Like that's giving back to the world in a way.
Yeah.
So I think that's dope.
Yeah. See, I'm exactly aligned, and it's why I love doing this show, is that we can bring people on, such as yourself, and we can have conversations like this, and we can even frame it in a way where we hit them exactly where they are, and then we give them like
The answer.
these are the things that do the thing.
Yeah.
And so if you're that way minded, where like you just really want this result, you can go and do it.
Exactly.
Like here it is.
Yeah.
You know what? Here's where I wanted to go next, and this was another part of the video that I really liked.
Oh, sorry, I'm just seeing
is
the comment.
lo-
It says, I've been sewing for about 4 years and want to quit my job to pursue my passion, but it has been a journey. Um, okay. One thing I would say too, if you want to get a job sewing, your local